Hello, Collective. We are here to do the reading for the Magician Water Energy. All right. Now we've got multiple major arcana that we're going to talk about in this one, because in Earth, the Magician is shared by Virgo and Gemini. So we did the Earth and the air signs. And the Magician is the topic of all four of them, the center of all four of them. So the Magician was shared, and then the Empress was shared between Taurus and Libra, right? So we already had some of the shared major arcana, so we didn't really get too deep into those individually, but we're gonna talk more about them because in the water signs, they're all kind of shared with each other. Except the Tower, which is shared by Aries and Scorpio. But we're doing fire signs last. All right. Because fire is, we're starting with mutable energy. All right, then we're going into fixed energy, and then we're finishing off with cardinal energy, right? Because cardinal is the decision. Fixed energy, which is fire. Fixed energy is earth, which is the discipline, right? The staying the course. And then mutable energy is the discernment between air and water, the current, the unseen, that sort of ambiguous energy, where earth and fire are very much feminine and masculine. They're very direct. Mutable energy is a little more fluid, pun intended. So when we do shadow work, we kind of go backwards because we're going within. All right, so they're all connected. It takes a decision to go into a mutable energy and come into a place where you're going to be analyzing and evaluating yourself. But the decision to move forward is what we're talking about here when it comes to coming into a divine union, pursuing, attracting. This is more... if you watch the reading or the discussion mostly, on why you should be single for a year according to tarot before coming into union, this is more about that year. That's what the Magician is. The Magician is about, and that year is, right, it's time. It's relative to the individual, but if you watch that reading, you'll understand it's more about the phases. Not everybody goes through those phases in a month or through a zodiac sign season, but you must go through if you want to do this in a balanced way, which if you want to do it in a divine way, that's the only way to do it. You need to go through each major arcana phase within before you go without, before you even try to incorporate somebody else into your path. Now the masculine pursues, the feminine attracts and receives. All right, so there is masculine is active, feminine is passive, but neither one of them are, when you're talking about human individuals, are completely masculine or feminine, right? We all have the same ingredients, different recipes within us. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to start with the immutable signs. Again, we're going to start within with the analyzing of self, that introspective inventory that you take, and then we're going to come to the fixed energy of the discipline that it takes to maintain and to work through the deeper shadows, right? Because that's where discipline comes in. It's really keeping the faith of your path and where you're headed. And then we're going to move into the cardinal energy of moving forward, all right? And all the fire energy and signs are about moving forward, taking a leap of faith, right? So you need to be in a place of fixed energy first, that you can ground yourself in that faith before you take a leap. So if you're leaping first and you haven't really worked out your self-inventory and your own inner demons, really, then you're going to be you're going to end up getting pushed back into that with a tower anyway. So the Tower will fix you. The Tower will put you back on your divine path, whether you want to or not. Okay, so over here with the more feminine energy, right? Because feminine is more in the water and earth, and even though mutable energy is air, which is masculine, and water, in this case, it's applying that mutable energy to a more feminine aspect, so more of the watery side to it. And then we move into the fixed energy of earth, right? We need to do a lot of feminine work, a lot of passive work, a lot of watching, observing, receiving information, and not actively putting anything out there for a while, so that we know what we're putting out there, because what we put out comes back to us, right? So with Pisces, the most romantic, idealistic sign of the zodiac is represented primarily by the Hanged Man, and then the High Priestess is shared between Pisces and Cancer. You can also get some Taurus energy from this, because Taurus is the High Priest or the Hierophant. So this is the feminine aspect of the Hierophant, all right? So if you want more information on the Hierophant or that reading, you can look into those. But that's all about aligning between the 5D and the 3D, the unseen and the seen, the spirit and the body, and being the mediator, the translator, the teacher and the student, right? You're the spiritual guide between those two. So you need to be a teacher and a student at the same time. So you're a student of the spirit, and then you're teaching that to the 3D and those around you. In this case, you have to teach it to yourself first, right? You have to connect with your spirit. You have to connect with your higher source, and that's that Pisces energy, right? The third eye that's really tapping into your view of spirituality, how you see things, right? Because our connection to God, the nomenclature is different, the experience is different, the signs are different. It's all relative to the individual. And that's what the Hanged Man is. The Hanged Man is doing things your own way. And this can be a little anarchist and rebellious, or at least others may view you that way. They may see you as being stubborn or rebellious, or just completely odd, or crazy. Right? You might be viewed as crazy in this place because why are you hanging upside down? It doesn't make sense. But this individual is really, and it's funny, I just did a tree pose, and that looks like tree pose if you put it in the upright, I did that for Gemini, which is a mutable sign as well. Right? And so, which is also part of the Magician, right? The Magician is Virgo and Gemini. So this is kind of mercurial. This is that very intellectual, analytical, and observant individual that's just watching their surroundings. They're not making any moves, and they're just, when you do inversions, right, you know that the blood flow, it shifts the blood flow, right? Everything flows differently. And it'll fill your head up, right? Your head space. So this is getting that flow, and the flow in the physical body is water, right? It's water is the blood. They say blood is thicker than water, but it doesn't flow without it, right? So you're going to have a lot of pushback with family members, old friends, right? Anybody from past lives that you are about to, I almost said annihilate, that you are about to work out of your energy, or you're going to just align with your own path, your divine intention and purpose, in a way that they will just fall to the wayside. But there will be some pushback here because you might be called names, right? Because you're dreaming here, right? The third eye and Pisces is very much about, and Cancer as well, water and moon energy is all dreams, right? This is all very dreamy. But Pisces they are idealistic, they're romantic, right? They have these big visions about what their person is going to be like, what their reality is going to look like. And at some point along the way, that was snuffed out, right? So you don't have to be a Pisces, but that's the energy that you are in if you're here. And this is the challenges that you're going to work through if you relate to that, right? If you relate to being a very dreamy, kind of space cadet-y child that has a very big imagination, and then that gets snuffed out by reality, right? You need to grow up. You need to, be real. And so you're probably breaking away from, jobs, constraints, family ties, a lot of attachments and things that you're going to realize don't serve your authentic path and calling, right? There's such a deep calling here. It's like an angelic calling and pull, that you have this greater divine purpose. And so this is you tapping back into that. All right. And so the Page of Cups, you're also, Pisces energy is very dreamy. It's very romantic. It's very attractive. A lot of people from the past are going to come in when you're in this space, and they're going to go, ooh, you're doing something different. And you may get a lot of sorries. You may get a lot of, this is like the apology, the childish card, right? If you're talking about coming into a union, the Empress and the Emperor don't deal with pages. They don't deal with little kids. They're grown-ups. You know what I mean? There could be a fracture in your sexuality from childhood as well with this. But this is mostly, the Page of Cups is about being a child at heart again, all right? And see how they're just sort of hanging out with maybe you had a fish growing up, but this is like a little kid who wins a fish at the fair, which of course I don't condone, but I think a lot of us did have them. I had pet fish. I still have pet fish, actually. 2, in fact. So this is very much like tapping into, Pisces energy is quite timid, like a fish, right? It can be sort of flighty. It can be sort of in and out. It seems sort of unpredictable to those who are around them. But that's because there's a constant pull between being an adult, which is like the 3D reality of society that everyone tells you should be, and staying in this childlike state, right? Staying in this pure state, which is the place that we come back to through shadow work. We come to this place. The ascension is a process of descension, right? It's going within. And so that's you tapping into your childish innocence and befriending that little timid fish, right? So that you can fill your own cup, right? That's the only thing we're worried about here, is dealing with our own cup. And the 4, so we have the 5 and the 4 of Cups over here, right? Because you've had a lot of disappointments, right? Deception, heartbreak. You can get into a kind of wounded warrior, woe is me place here when you're watching everything around you, particularly if you are very imaginative and you're looking around you and you're seeing things that do not align. You're not seeing the results or anything even close to the relationship that you pictured, the dream living circumstances, your whatever you want to do for work or creatively, right? Whatever you see or saw as a child, you might not see it around you. And sometimes that's the tricky place when you're going completely on faith. And faith takes self-worth, it takes confidence. And so if you have this broken confidence from being deceived and hurt repeatedly from growing up, right? 5 is the number of lack, so you feel a lot of heartbreak. And so if you are attracting from anywhere, from this place, if you're trying to attract romantic partnerships from this place, all you're going to attract is more of this. So you need to drop one of those cups. You get too many cups, too much emotion, right? And you're coming into a more discerning place. That's what mutable energy is. It's discerning. It's about realizing the balance between when to go and when to stay, when to protect and be active in your masculine energy and when to stay and nurture in your feminine energy. And that's what you're doing here in the Four of Cups, is you're just observing everything that's coming into you. And see how these 3 cups are the ones that are spilt in this? You're watching those, right? Because you don't want to forget everything that you learned, right? You want to, past behavior, psychologically, past behavior is indicative of future behavior, right? So you want to pay attention to the red flags and all of that. I don't know why but because I feel like red flags are just, that term is so overused, but it's again, like everything else, it's relative, it's subjective. So you know what works for you and what doesn't, right? Maybe you, only want to date within a certain set of standards that other people might, again, if you're in this place, you might have friends around you that are like, you're crazy, you're too particular, you're never going to find someone like that, you're never going to do this or that. And those are the types of people who don't have their self-worth in check, they don't have their confidence, so it's easier to bring yours down to their level. Whether that's conscious or subconscious, it doesn't matter. So this is evaluating your family relationships, your friendships, because like attracts like. And if you are birds of a feather, if you're hanging around a lot of people who are into casual relationships, who aren't representing what you want from a relationship, then you're going to have to cut them loose. You're going to have to isolate and come into a very independent place, because you're creating something that's never been seen before. It's going to be completely original because only you have seen what you have seen, and only you know what you know. And that's this sort of, you're pulling, you're attracting and pulling this reality out of the clouds, out of the ethers, out of your imagination. And that's what you're waiting on. You're not going to deal with patterns. You're not going to deal with empty cups. And so you're only going to, when we get into the 3 of Cups is about celebration. You're only going to celebrate, or if you're wanting to get into something that's wholesome and balanced, and you keep attracting, maybe one of your parents was an alcoholic, maybe or they were an addict of some sort, or maybe they were cheating constantly, and maybe this is what you've seen in your childhood, and then you continue to attract it, but you're hanging around people who are out at the bar all the time, and you're wanting something wholesome, and you don't want someone who drinks, then what are you doing at the bar, right? So this is like grounding yourself, getting yourself into a place of contemplation and really tapping into, and the polar sign for Pisces is Virgo. So that's you getting into a more Virgo energy that's very analytical, very decisive, and discerning about what's going to work for you and what's not. And I'm just not going to do that because I don't want to do that. And that's the only reason, right? No is a complete sentence, right? And this 6 of Cups. So you go through this 4 of Cups, you're evaluating the 5 of Cups. And the more that you are in the 4 of Cups, the more you're also going to probably be in the 5 of Cups, right? Because the more discerning you get, the more decisive you get, the more you analyze and observe everything around you, the more you're going to realize, wow, there's a lot of like low vibration out there. So you're going to tap more and more into faith. And it always gets harder before it gets easier, right? The closer you get to God, the closer the devil gets to you. So you're going to be constantly inundated with shadows and fears and demonic energies and lower vibrational frequencies, and potentially people trying to put dark magic on you, whether that is methodical, right? Whether that's false magicians out there, or just subconscious people who, or unconscious people who are just kind of all willy-nilly out there. That can still influence you and knock you into a lower frequency, right? So that's also it's also about shifting your expectations, right? And that does not mean lowering them, right? That just means expecting that what you want. This is like knowing what you want is so pure, right? Because you're pulling it straight from the purest form of incarnation, right? When you incarnated, the person the soul that you were meant to be with, right? And maybe you knew them from childhood, right? But you're going to find that you guys have been on the same path, right? Very similar paths, very similar experiences. Six of Cups is like, it's soulmate energy. It's tapping into what did you originally want, right? Because you may get your hopes up with every new encounter with somebody, and that's why it's good to just not date or not even look for anything for a while, and just trust that your person is working on themselves at the same time, because you guys are on that same path, and that will keep you out of the more that you experience people that disappoint you, because expectations are not bad, right? Expectations are not a negative thing. It's good to have expectations as boundaries, expectations of yourself. If you have expectations of others, that's where you get disappointed and you have issues, right? The expectation is knowing this is what I want, this is what feels true to me, this is what I dream of, this is what is divinely aligned for me and is meant for me, and trusting in the divine timing. And once you have that expectation, other people, when they come in and they have that lower frequency, there's not, it will be more obvious that they're not either rising to the occasion, and nobody has to be bad to just not be good for you, or nobody has to be wrong to not be right for you. This is just you knowing your place and knowing where you stand and what your standards and boundaries are, and keeping those. Those are the only expectations you're obligated to keep, are the ones with yourself. That makes sense. I need to pause this for a second. Okay, good. Leave it. Thank you. I've been drinking a lot of water and I had some coffee, so I had to take a little bathroom break. Okay, so Scorpio. Scorpio is fixed energy. Fixed is earth energy. So this is earth and water. All right, so we had that current with Pisces energy. That's the current of the unseen, right? And that's more of the 5D. This is more of bringing things to the 3D, to that earth energy, right? Seeing it in your pentacle world, seeing it in your tangible world. And so when you're doing this work and you start being discerning and you start, really tapping into your romantic side, and you get back into that imagination, right? Childish energy, pure energy is very attractive, right? If you ever see kids playing, it's like, I want to do whatever they're doing, right? They look like they're having the best time. And so you're going to be very attractive, all right? And that's the there's lower vibrational energy is going to be attracted to that just as much as higher vibrational energy. So when you come into scorpionic energy, right, that's Pluto, that's the furthest from the sun, you're going even deeper within. You're going even further away from, it's going to feel like you're going a little bit further away from source, all right, because you are going more toward earth, right? You're going deeper into your shadows, into your ego, so you're doing more invasive research, right? You're like a paleontologist, and you're digging up all your own skeletons and stuff. But that's where Seven of Cups is, having a lot of options, all right? A lot of people are going to be like, oh, I like what you're doing, I want to offer you this, and you've been pre-approved, and there's going to be a lot of people from the past, and a lot of new people that are basically people from the past. So when you have all these options, there's going to be that place of, wow, I think I'm done. I think I'm ready. I have all these options. That must mean that I'm doing something right. Yes, it does, but that's the discipline of fixed energy, is staying the course and not succumbing to giving your energy to, and giving your love, your water energy, right, to others. Okay, now this could be about casual relationships if we're talking about divine union. This could be about overworking for others, or trying to multitask and split yourself into a bunch of different directions. Because if you're reevaluating, maybe you've left a job, maybe you've left family business, right? You've left some sort of practice, way of life that was not fitting and aligned with your divine path. So now you're paving the path, right? You're paving the path, like water working its way through rocks. You are cutting a whole new path, and that takes time and dedication, but it will eventually happen, and it will be a brand new path no one's ever been in, and then you end up with something gorgeous like the Grand Canyon. But this is also like the Four of Cups. This is like being discerning and not just giving your energy, because everything in here is like, it reminds me of like an arcade game, the whack-a-moles or whatever. It's like all these opportunities and options are going to be popping up. And there are more options than they are opportunities, although every option is an opportunity. But just because it's there doesn't mean that it's an opportunity you need to take on. Sometimes it's just an opportunity to say no, right? And that's the Eight of Cups and the Ace of Cups, right? When you add this Ace of Cups is all about filling your own cup, all right? And you may be feeling charged up and feeling like, I'm closer, I feel really good, I want to give this energy, this feels so empowering, and you want to give it, to others, but they're not ready for it. And the only way that you can, the best way that you can give it to others is by just giving it to yourself, right? Leading by example. And when they see you filling up your own cup, because otherwise, if you're filling somebody else's cup and you're still doing this work and they aren't doing it themselves, right? That's why they're flocking to you like a bunch of hungry seagulls trying to get at your sandwich. It's like, make your own damn sandwich, right? This is filling your own cup. And when you add that Ace of Cups to the Seven of Cups, you get the Eight of Cups, right? You have to walk away from a lot. Okay? And this is a very difficult place. This is the hardest part about discipline is, I would say like the hangman is like doing a fast or a diet. This is like changing your lifestyle and staying the course. There's also a decision behind this, right? There is some cardinal energy here. There is some movement and active energy, but this is not choosing something outside of yourself. This is choosing yourself, so it's more feminine, because you are, basically what you're doing is you're allowing everything else to fall away. So it's not so much about pushing anything away. You're just following your heart. You're just doing the work on you. And that brings you to the Nine of Cups, right? That brings you into a place of independent self-love. All right, and see how happy they are? But when you're in this place of really having to choose yourself, when you are likely a child of chaos who has come from narcissistic, vampiric, conditional upbringings, that's the type of lovers that you've attracted, that's the type of friends you've attracted, work you've attracted, everything that you've attracted has been to takers, to giving to takers. All right, and so it's left you in this place of very low self-worth because you've never had the opportunity to fill your own cup. You were never told from an early age that you were worthy of filling your own cup. So when you start choosing yourself, it's a lot of emotions are going to come up in that, right? And look how exhausted they look. You're going to feel like, man, I feel old, I feel haggard, I feel tired, I feel defeated, I feel low energy, right? You might be dealing with some, and all you're doing more excavating. So you're going to be discovering more and more about yourself that maybe you don't like, right? That's the point of this work, the shadow work, is going through all the stuff that you don't like, right? Because the stuff that you don't like is all the shit that you've done to make yourself likable to everybody else. So of course you're not going to like yourself, right? Because those people don't even like you. They love you conditionally, right? So it's about what they can get from you. And so when you aren't giving to anybody else but yourself, it's like that, those shadows of, oh, this low frequency here that I've just uncovered is a result of this person or that person, right? And this isn't about putting the blame on those people. This is about just identifying choices you made, and then you have to deal with the fact that you made those choices. You chose that person to come into your life. You chose that person to give your energy to. And that's going to maybe put you in it's going to likely put you into a place where you're like very hard on yourself, right? And all that blame is going to turn on you, and all of that destructive energy is going to turn on you. So it's a really heavy place with the Tower and the death energy, letting go of things that don't serve you, ending things that don't serve you, and staying true to your destined path. Otherwise, the universe will do it for you. So you are like the own tower on your path, or the universe is. Either way, whether you make the choice to end something or the universe does, it's never easy, right? You know, and you're also going to have to admit in this place of the Eight of Cups that I don't have the ability to unconditionally love people. Because you can't unconditionally love anybody else if you don't love yourself, right? You start to build up resentment because you're exhausted. You're giving to others, right? You're giving outside of yourself, and it's non-reciprocal. So you're not getting recharged, you're drained, and so you're giving out of habit, you're giving out of obligation. That's not giving, all right? That's actually quite conditional. Because what you're doing is you're giving to those people with the expectation that they're going to reciprocate, and that they're going to fill you up, and that this action of filling them up is going to, in turn, fulfill you. And that's a lot of pressure to put on another person. And so if you attract love in this place, yeah, you're going to be basically putting all of that pressure on somebody else to love you enough for you to love yourself. And that's impossible. Nobody else can do that. Only you can do that. So that's why you have to come into this place. And see how they have these stripes on? It kind of feels like jail, right? It almost feels like self-imposed imprisonment, but it is like an isolation. And I just watched The Shawshank Redemption, so it's really, it is like your own redemption, right? Maybe your narrator is going to sound as good as Morgan Freeman. I think Morgan Freeman is a Pisces. Is he a Pisces? I don't know what Tim Robbins is. Anyway, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, maybe there's something in the signs there. But again, this is you. You know, and if you haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption, I don't want to spoil anything for you. 33:55 on the clock there. But there is a discipline to what he's doing. And so there is a discipline to being in prison. There's a routine to it. Okay, so that's I'm not literally, right? You don't want to feel, and you might feel like that sometimes. You might feel like the isolation is too much. So there's also a need in this place maybe to go to the beach, really tap into some water energy, right? If you have access to any bodies of water, all right, self-care, drinking a lot of water, making sure that you're, taking nice baths or showers, soaking your feet, right? tapping into that water energy, consuming a lot of hydrating foods, fruits, right? Making sure that you're keeping yourself nurtured in this, because you've got this double feminine energy of fixed water, earth and water. It's the two feminine elements. So there's a need to really keep yourself nurtured and give yourself a lot of grace, okay? To keep yourself on this very determined path, which takes a lot of discipline, right? It takes regiment, it takes just doing it, going through the motions, maybe setting timers, right? Sometimes you just have to kind of do what you have to do, but then there's also a need for that grace, that when you're looking into these things of the past, that you did them out of necessity, okay? Right? Because you were put into a box, you were put into a prison by your primary caregivers, right? By your false emperor and false empress that created you, and whomever raised you or didn't raise you. So you're closing cycles for ancestors. You're answering questions that nobody else even asked. So you're doing all this work, not just for yourself. And so there's a need to also remember, like, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, right? And so where they did not cut you slack, where they did not give you grace, where they did not give you unconditional love, that's the biggest challenge here in this space, is knowing that you're honoring the work that you're doing, and then also giving yourself that time to reflect on it and to sit with it, and to not get into a place of vengeful, right? Scorpionic energy can be quite vengeful, and in the lower vibe. Oh my gosh, in a lower frequency. So when you come into this place of 9, you're closer to God. You're closer to the 10 of Cups, which is the goal here, right? That's the abundance that we're talking about. And so it's like when there's still a cup between where you are and where you're going, or what you're attracting, you're always going to have to go back through these steps, right? Of making sure that you're filling your cup, making sure that you're giving yourself grace, that you're nurturing yourself, that you are not, if you feel a feeling, let it come up, do it, nurture it, there's a discipline to weakness, just like there's a discipline to strength, right? And sometimes our greatest strength is in allowing ourselves to be weak. So you might be feeling sort of, if you're going through wounded warrior energy, if you're going through the lower vibrations of all of these, right? Every card, every phase, every energy has a lower frequency to it. So you're going to be going through those and then once you go through those and honor that space of, all right, this is where I'm struggling. This is where I feel weakest. This is where I'm still being conditional with myself, right? And you don't want to invite that other cup into your 9 of Cups if you're still, if you haven't broken out of the prison that you were put into. All right. So this is like an individual who see how satisfied they are to be in their new box, right? They put themselves in a new box, meaning a new home, a new space. But the thing here is, there's no bars on the doors here. They can come and go as they please. All right. This isn't like Schrodinger's cat, right? You can come and go as you please. You've cleared out the radioactive material. So let's get into Cancer, because I feel like that's a place where a lot of people struggle. Is because when you come to this place, you might think, they look a little bit pious too, like, I've got it all figured out, right? I've got my 9 of Cups. So you can get into an ego place here, And if you're also doing the work for other people, you might look around and go, you can get into a place of comparing yourself. So you just want to watch that and make sure that you're still staying humble about the work that you're doing, right? You're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your ancestors in the past and those to come, right? You're going to be the ancestor for others. Whether you have kids or not, it doesn't matter. You're still energetically an ancestor for others to come, because when your body passes, your energy's got to go somewhere. And so you want to make sure that that energy stays pure and humble and aligned with the collective purpose. All right, and the collective purpose is balance. All right, it's not about comparison. It's not about tit for tat. It's not, I'm doing better than my siblings, or I'm doing better than my parents, or I'm doing better than my past lovers, right? So, yeah, there's just something about that, which is a lower vibration of scorpionic energy, right? You know, if Scorpios are in a lower frequency, there can be possessiveness, there can be jealousy, right? So you want to make sure that you're not being envious, and not just of others, but of other versions of yourself, right? Because again, you're going to be going through, 8 is the number of cycles, it's the number of infinity, right? It's that strength, it's that Leo energy, which is a fixed sign. It's but it's a fixed fire sign, right? And so as we're coming into the fire and cardinal energy, there may be a point where you go, I've got it all ready, I'm ready to come into union, I've got it all figured out. And you can sort of, just because you've done work on other versions of yourself, that's the point where they're going to really come up and challenge you, right? You're going to be tested, and you'll loop back into, the stronger you get, the more options or opportunities you're going to get to say no to. Because you only need one yes. When we're talking about divine union, you're only looking for one, right? So you're going to say no a lot more than you're going to say yes. And so when you're in that place, you might be attracting a lot of people. Watch your ego. Watch your ego in that place. And don't forget your ego, right? You want to watch it. That's why I said watch it. Because if you don't get back into, if you don't stay remembering the mutable energy, the observations, the analysis, the self-inventory that you've done, and all of this discipline that you've kept, you can lose sight of where you're actually going. And you might just have been doing this, and you'll see this a lot with like online gurus or influencers, right? They can just go, okay, like I've made it, and they're just the teacher then. They feel like they're just the teacher. But the teacher, the high priestess and the Hierophant, they are always the student first. All right? If you've ever been, teachers who just talked at you suck. Parents who just talk at you and don't practice what they preach, they suck, right? Leaders, bosses, if they're not the ones, particularly if you have a hands-on heavy work job, you can't respect those who are not willing to do the work themselves, right? So there may be a place, you might be struggling with a place at this point of looking around you and being like, I'm so much better than these other people. I've got it figured out. I'm doing it right. They're doing it wrong. They're doing what they're doing, and you want to make sure that you stay humble and centered on your path and your discipline, and just remember that this is not about competition. This isn't about who's best, and not to be jealous of other people who are doing that. There's no deadline for this. All right, even the ultimate deadline. All right, even with death energy. All right, even literally death is not. That's not even the deadline. All right, because energy is everlasting, and so you're doing what you can in this body, in this current reality, to shift your energy, to shift your blood, purify your blood through wielding the element of water for the next people, right? We've been drinking the same water the dinosaurs peed in, right? So it's like, and if Earth had not been doing all of that filtration, our water would be pretty disgusting. But it's the same water that's been here all along, and that's how our water is, right? Our bodily fluids will evaporate and they will return to the Earth. They will return to the cycle. All right, and I know that's very nice and bad, but it is the circle of life. Okay, so make sure that just because you're in this independent energy in the physical world, in the fixed earth energy, that you're not allowing yourself to be overcome with greed or slipping into dark magic or trying to influence others or manipulate or anything like that. Anyway, I feel like that was a long way to say that, but it needed to be said, I guess. So, the Chariot Cancerian energy, you really want to make sure that you're in a good centered place before you move forward, right? You want to make sure you're following your heart, because if your heart is not in the right place with the Chariot energy, you're going to be following something else, right? You're going to be pursuing something. Now, the feminine does not pursue, all right? So the Chariot is about trusting your heart, all right? And Cancer is also represented by the moon, which also represents Pisces. It can also represent Scorpio, right? It's moon, it's water, it's feminine energy. We got this little crustacean. We have the dog, which represents Cancer. Often Cancer is represented by dogs because of their loyalty. And then we have the crustacean, because Scorpios were large underwater crustaceans. And then we have the wolf there, which the Native American zodiac or coyote, but I'm just going to say wolf because wolf is the Native American zodiac for Pisces, right? So again, all of the major arcana for the water signs are pretty much interconnected, aside from the Tower, which is also associated with Aries energy, right? Which Aries is the Fool and it's the Emperor, right? So we're moving into that masculine energy. So again, if you wanted something that was wholesome and nurturing, you want to make sure that you're not leaping into somebody else's faith or leaping into somebody else's path. So you're only leaping on your own path. All right, it's like hopscotch. Right, you're still going in the line that you intended, but so you might be. Why am I getting like board games? And right, like Candyland, but I do feel like it's kind of like you're moving spaces, but it's on your path. So if you move into, and if you are the feminine and you start pursuing the masculine, you're going to shift the balance of the divine masculine and feminine. So the Cancerian Chariot energy is, if you're the feminine, the struggle, the challenge here is to make sure that you are awaiting the Chariot, okay? You're staying in this, your feminine energy, in your water, in your earth energy, and you're not pursuing with that fire masculine energy. If anything, if you're pursuing anything, again, it's on your path. If you're taking leaps of faith, it's on your path. So this is pursuing creative endeavors, work, all right? Can be like, changing your appearance, changing your environment, but it's your environment. You're not crossing over into anybody else's. You're not pulling up at anybody else's doorstep, right? That's the masculine's job. That's just energy, people. And you know which one you are, masculine or feminine. If you don't know which one you are, there are plenty of resources to find that out. And the number one resource is you within, so you can meditate on it if you don't know. You can be the woman and be the divine masculine. You can be a man and be the divine feminine, right? You can be, sexual orientation is different. We're talking energy. But the Knight of Cups is, that's the masculine coming in to pursue the divine feminine. So that's quite challenging. And with Scorpios, a lot of people say they're the fieriest of the water signs. That's not true. They are the earth. They are fixed water. They are the earthiest ones. They're the most about the tangible. They're the most about the physical pleasures and things like that. I think people associate them with fire because they can be kind of passionate, and they also have that sort of trifecta, like Aquarius, because Aquarius is a fixed air sign, but they're the water bearer, right? So there's sort of like a lot of energies at play in one sign, where normally it's just the one supporting modality and then the element. But mutable signs kind of have that trifecta because they've got water and air and the mutable energy to support and challenge their primary element. But with the signs, Aquarius and Scorpio are kind of like mutable in themselves as well, but they're more directly because mutable is the current, right? So it's not like a combative, it's more fluid, it's more flowing, it's more seamless where when it's balanced. But when we're talking about fire, okay, hold on. This may cut off and I may have to finish the rest of this in a separate reading, but I have somebody on the way to buy something because I'm selling everything. So I'm going to pause this and see if I can reply to her. And if it cuts out, I'll do a part 2. Okay, I got that to work. But Cancer is actually the cardinal energy, right? And maybe the discrepancy with Scorpio is the fact that, yeah, they're a scorpion in the desert, but they were a large underwater crustacean before they came onto the earth as a Scorpio, right? As a scorpion. All right, so yeah, I think people just see them as being his fixed signs are quite. They can be quite all in or all out, and that passion can seem a little bit hot and heavy, right? Because fire is passion, and so maybe that's where that comes in, and to each their own. But Cancer is the cardinal water sign, so they are the fieriest of the water signs, right? And so if you have Cancer in your chart, if you're dealing with a Cancer, if you're in this energy, that is you trying to lead your heart space and lead your emotions with a fiery passion. Now, this is wonderful if you're doing it for yourself, right? Or if it's reciprocal with somebody else. That can be a very, very fun time, right, with somebody. If it's balanced, right? If it's reciprocal. If this is you just trying to jump the gun here and get into something immediately, you can get into something that's casual, that's hot and heavy, that's passionate. But it's going to be sort of in and out. It's not going to be reciprocal. It's not going to be balanced. And Cancers can be seen as quite moody as the little crab. But there's an intelligence there, right? They've evolved to be able to protect themselves from all of the bottom feeders, right? And everything that's in the ocean that can basically just pick on them, right? So there is a protective energy with the Chariot, with the Knight, right? There's like an armor, like a crustacean, being sort of guarded and protective, and that's using fire and masculine energy. So if you're the feminine, you can use masculine energy to protect your heart space. Now, if you're dealing with a masculine Cancerian energy, can take a little longer to come forward. It can be a little bit less trusting, all right, because they're very much in their feminine aspect. And so the Emperor gets it together, but the Emperor can take a little bit longer, right? So the challenge here with Cancerian energy, when you're talking about a union, is waiting for the right Emperor and not false emperors, not hot and heavy energy, and not just going for the passion, but going for the emotion, the emotional availability. All right, and you can still have armor, but see how you can lift your face, right? They're not wearing a mask, they can still show their face. And if you are the masculine, this is sort of just you understanding how to be open, but still not go through repeat cycles of being picked on or being in something that was just taking from you. And if you think about crabs and crustaceans, right, horribly so, the way that we cook them is we put them into water and then we put fire underneath it. All right, and that's what Cancerian energy is, right? So you want to make sure that you're keeping that heat and that passion at a simmer. All right, stop eating crabs, or don't. Free will. But yeah, the Two of Cups, you want to make sure that it's balanced. You want to make sure that it's reciprocal. And there's that Three of Cups from before, right? With the Five of Cups energy and Pisces energy. You want to make sure that you're only celebrating a Two of Cups in the upright. Otherwise, these are going to be spilling over all over themselves. All right? And maybe this is non-alcoholic juice that they're drinking. Right? So when you're talking about purifying your water, you want to make sure that you're also on this path. Sobriety is paramount, right? When you're talking about aligning with the divine, you can't have substances and energies coming in and muddying up and polluting your pure source of water, right? Or you're always going to have sediment in the way. So it's about cleaning that up. And then the turnout is this. So it takes a lot of patience, and it takes some temperance, which is a fire, immutable fire energy, right? So it takes that balance of keeping the water and the heat and the passion at a nice warm bath temperature, right? And that way it will last longer. All right, it's like a slow cooker, right, versus like a boiling pot, and you're just cooking beans, right? So yeah, this is a lot with the heart, with the moon, the unseen. This is trusting. Right? It takes the feminine trusting the masculine. What does the moon do? It trusts the sun to give it light. And then you have the abundance. All right. This person I think is going to be here any minute. I'm going to go ahead and stop this here. I think there's plenty of information here. If you want to follow me over on Instagram, I'm doing the zodiac sign yoga poses and practices over there in Reels. And if not, thank you for watching, and I wish you well.